Arise, acolytes of Shadow, for it is the year of our edgy Hedgehog overlord. Commence our pilgrimage of praise. Let us dissect the magnus opus and potential Pulitzer Prize nominee in video game design. Let us dive deep into the ultimate life form known as Shadow the Hedgehog.
SEGA Bits presents SEGA Talk, a podcast talking all things SEGA! With your hosts, George and Barry.
Look, it's a giant talking egg. I'm not talking to you. I'm talking to the master here. So what?
Hello, everyone. I'm your bearer that lights the light that casts the shadow, George. And with me, like always, is my sidekick, the flame to the light, Barry.
Hi, why is this a religious service? I don't get it.
We are here to celebrate a big year, my dude. This is the year of the Shadow. We've been waiting forever. I know you're a big Shadow fan. In the background, it seems like there's a lot of Sonic the Hedgehog stuff in Barry's house, but technically, if you pull down the curtains, it's all Shadow. And we are celebrating the year of Shadow, so I decided that maybe we should pick Shadow. This isn't a pick. This isn't an actual pick by Patreon. This is actually picked by me, because I thought, you know what? I think it's time to talk about this video game, and it's kind of a sequel to our Sonic the Hedgehog, Sonic Adventure 2 episode we did, which was basically Shadow prequel, the game. So why don't you plug the Patreon for the fine folks at home real quick?
Sure. So if you like what we do and you want to support us, we are at patreon.com/segabits. We have different tiers. There are tiers that get you the show early, sometimes by 1 or 2 weeks, depending on our scheduling. We also have tiers that lets you pick the content that we talk about. And this episode, though, this is a personal pick from George because he loves Shadow so much.
I do.
So I'm very much looking forward to hearing all about Shadow and what he has to say about Shadow. And at the end of the show, we will read Patreon memories. So if you support us at any level, your memory will be read at the end of the show. George, let's kick it off.
So, Shadow the Hedgehog is a 2005 platformer game by SEGA Studios USA and published by SEGA. It was a spin-off of the Sonic the Hedgehog series starring the character Shadow. Shadow the Hedgehog was released on GameCube, PlayStation 2, and Xbox. This episode is, I said a sequel to our Sonic Adventure 2 episode, since we talked about how the best parts of that story were the Shadow and Robotnik storylines and how they intertwine together. So check that episode out. There's a little clicker on the top of the screen somewhere you guys could click on. And Barry, what is your history with Shadow the Hedgehog, and what platformers did you play this majestic game?
Well, my history with the character obviously goes back to Sonic Adventure 2, but my history with this game actually came much later. I actually have my copy here in hand. I have the Xbox version. Let me see. There is a used sticker on it. So I definitely did not get it when it came out. No sign of when I bought it. But this is a game I definitely got well after the fact, and I did not play all that much.
It's not a very good game, so I don't blame you there on that one.
But from what I did play, I was like, it kind of feels like Sonic Heroes, but a single-player experience. And that was the one thing that always stood out to me in the Sonic Heroes Shadow era, is that I was so used to Sonic Adventure 1 and 2 that when these games were coming out, I was like, they feel off. They feel weird to me. And then when Sonic Frontiers came out just recently, I played that, and I'm like, this feels right. And I feel like with classic Sonic, it's a lot easier to pick up the classics or Mania or Superstars and then compare that to Sonic 4. Whereas with the 3D Sonics, there's so much more going on that Shadow kind of falls in the pile with Sonic Lost World and Heroes, where it just feels off to me and weird. So that's one of the main reasons I just did not play it that much, despite the game having its downsides. I didn't really stick it out because I didn't like how it felt.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
So my history with it was that I actually thought that the idea of making a solo Shadow game was brilliant. I thought that they should have done it literally right after Sonic Adventure 2. I mean, Shadow was already kind of back in Heroes, right? So, like, the idea that he, in some form, I guess you could say, you could say that it wasn't a surprise. Like, if you're trying to make this a surprise that, like, he's still alive, you really never really perform that. Like, I think they say in comic books, when a hero dies, that's supposed to be an event, but when he comes back, you're supposed to make it feel like an event too, so the payoff is there.
Right.
I feel like Shadow never got that, but I thought the idea at the time was cool, especially coming off Sonic Adventure 2, and that he should get his own game. So I was excited about the concept of it. Even the Ratchet and Clank looking ideas, like the guns, always reminded me of Ratchet and Clank, and I liked it at the time. So I was excited, very disappointed when I played the game. I never beat it. I never beat this game, by the way. I've seen all the endings online because I didn't feel like it was worth playing through. And I think it's a bad game with cool concepts, showing you a time era in Sonic Team when they were basically being overworked by SEGA, who was going broke at the time, trying to push as many games out there to sell as many units as possible. And this was one of them because it's almost like the Simpsons episode, right? Where they had that Poochie. And he became so popular that they had just to milk him dry until he died. And then they, like, this is what happened to Shadow. And he became a side character again after this game. And nobody got no side... Okay, one thing I really want to see Sega do more than that Nintendo does is give their side characters games.
Yeah.
Like, Princess Zelda's getting their own game soon. It's like, come on. But I was happy that they tried it here. Obviously, it didn't work out. But that's my history with the game and my ideas about the game, basically. And... are you surprised that this game has been largely ignored and hasn't even gotten a PC port?
I'm not surprised. I feel like Heroes, oddly, Shadow and Sonic 06 have all been kind of pushed aside. A lot of the, from what I've heard, it's because of the development tools for Shadow and Heroes. What was it made with? I always hear it argued that was the reason.
I forgot what it was called, but I remember everyone would make fun of them. It was like the physics engine.
Yeah, and I don't know if that's true or not. But I think it's just a matter of the games not being up to the level that Sega wanted them to be. And I know there's people listening that are like huge Shadow fans, huge Heroes fans. So I'm not trying to like insult those games, but like Sega themselves have like they have a bar that I just don't think those games cleared. So instead of giving us ports or re-releases, they do stuff like Sonic and Shadow Generations, where they touch on the game but with like new content. I think that's fine, though. I'm of the mindset where I think I really like to see every Sonic game like ported over and playable on current gen platforms. And Shadow, Heroes, and Sonic 06 are the last console you can really play them on backwards compatible is the 360. And then after that, like, what do we do? So
right. I mean, thankfully there's online emulation if you guys want to play it. Obviously, the GameCube has a really good emulator. So I would tell fans that are new into the franchise and they want to like, I want to suffer, I hate myself. Go ahead, download and pirate this game.
Right.
It'll do something for you, I'm sure. Let's talk about the development. And one thing I noticed is there's not too much development for this game. And considering how fast Sonic games were coming out during this time, I'm not surprised. I feel like they released one game and 6 months later they have another game coming out. So it was like Sonic Rush, Sonic 06, Sonic Heroes just came out, and then this game, it's a lot. So, Sonic Team, after Sonic Heroes, we're debating what to take the franchise to next. Some ideas were going the Sonic Heroes route, going the adventure route, or something new. At this point, what's your opinion on this take? Like, you experienced as a kid, Sonic Adventure, and then you played Sonic Heroes, right? where do you think Sega should have taken the franchise? Did you see them going like, we're going to do a Shadow game?
I thought it was kind of odd that they were sticking to that plot point. I feel like we spent a little too much time in the aftermath of Sonic Adventure 2 between, it wasn't a main focus of Heroes, but it was there, and it was a big question for fans. And then in Shadow, it was resolved, but I don't know. I feel like it's the longest dwelling on the ending of a game that we've ever had with the franchise. Like, Sonic Frontiers ended, but imagine if the next the next Sonic game, like, followed up with the aftermath of Frontiers, and then we got another game about, like, Sage, and then we got another game. It's just like,
I like how Sonic Adventure 2 did not even talk about the fallout of Sonic Adventure 1. Like, they never even mentioned what happened in 1. They never went like, the city is still being rebuilt because of Sonic Adventure 1's the water thing happened, right? Or the city destruction, we're still fixing. No, nothing like that. Like, so the idea that we're like, I don't know, 20 years into the franchise and we're still talking about Maria and there's going to be a movie.
Right.
I guess with the plot being retold. And I think younger fans that are going to come into the next franchises coming up are going to know his story through the movie than they are by the video game.
Right,
so,
right.
So shortly after, Sega's official channels, started putting a poll out asking fans who they would want to start in their own video game. And the poll included Tails, Espio, and the ultimate life form known as Shadow. And this has always kind of struck me as odd with Sega because, like, you put two characters that, let's be honest, are not going to beat Shadow. Espio and Tails are not more popular than Shadow. They've never. Sadly, Shadow is one of the most popular characters since its inception. Mm-hmm. They knew Shadow was going to win, in my opinion. But would you want let's say it was meme culture day now, where we had influence and other websites had influence, and we like swayed them to do Espio. Do you think they really were going to do an Espio game if it won?
I mean, I could see it with the ninja side to it. But yeah, I think Shadow was always
I agree. And
the winner.
Sonic Retro agrees, and it's part of the notes. But yeah, for sure. A few weeks after the poll results were made public, it was announced that Sonic would be inducted into the Walk of Game in San Francisco. I actually never heard of this thing. Here's a picture of Sonic with Gavin Newsom, the mayor at the time.
Yeah.
So I didn't know about this. I didn't know this was a thing. I guess it's been discontinued. Only a few franchises have been put in. Mario, Lara Croft, that kind of stuff. Sonic, obviously. During this event, they decided that it's probably a good time to show the next installment of the Sonic franchises. So they had a 2-part trailer, one showing the history of the brand and studio, and the other part was the first look at Shadow the Hedgehog, which we actually have a video of right here, and we can watch it. Do you have it pulled up?
Yeah, let's do it.
I'll play it. Ooh, rating. Oh, see, so it starts off with the history. Green Hill Zone.
Oh, God, I hate this video.
You've seen it, right?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah. I love it, dude. Look how he walks up. So thuggish. I'm a big fan of the music. I'm vibing, dude. I'm in. Yeah, this is, see, it seems really far out to be like, oh, some people in the pool liked it. Like, it already has gunplay and everything.
Right. Enter the Shadow. Yeah.
An unexpected hero. Dude, I think the biggest joke about this game is how he's just literally using real life guns, like, as a hedgehog, an anamorphic hedgehog. Isn't that weird? I guess they were trying. I want to give them a little bit of like, maybe they were trying to be like Looney Tunes or something,
right?
You know, or like Roger Rabbit, but I don't think so, sadly. But what do you? Let's say you're a journalist that knows nothing about Sonic the Hedgehog. To you, Sonic the Hedgehog is a video game franchise for kids, and then you go to this event. Newsom is there, and he's like, "Oh, gun violence in San Francisco is really bad. Hopefully, nothing weird happens." And they post this. No, and then they show this. This is weird, isn't it?
Yeah, it's really bad. Like, now Shadow is relevant. Now he's like 20 plus years old.
Established.
Yeah, but back then, like, it's celebrating Sonic, and then you derail the thing by
shooting. The trailer literally shot in
on this character that's relatively new, that the people who knew Sonic in 1991 do not probably know about. So it's it's a misstep.
Yeah, I agree with that one. I think it's weird. I also think it's like you're being inducted by, like, for your character and its legacy, and you're like, here's the worst game we're ever gonna make, guys. Check this out. Not a good way to go. But even though the pool and the announcement line up, a lot of credible people believe that the game was in development prior to the pool, and I actually have to agree with this because of the marketing, and Sonic Retro agrees, so kind of have to go with that. During the development, the idea was that that Sonic Hero would appeal to children, and the team, Sonic Team USA, just being renamed Sega Studios USA, wanted Shadow to appeal to more adults. What do you think about this whole idea that, like, if a game is happy and bright and beautiful, that it's aimed for children, and that if it's super grim and, like, nasty and Gears of War, then adults automatically have to like it?
I mean, that was kind of the mindset back then. I feel like things have
very much so
really changed now. But yeah, that tracks.
I agree, but I think that Sonic the Hedgehog franchise should always be for everyone. It would be literally like if Toy Story 4 is like, we're making a new movie. You know the dinosaur from Toy Story? He's back with guns and he murders people. It's like, what the... It's Jurassic Park, but he's the villain. It's like, no, dude, this is not what I signed up for. So that's how I feel about that. I think that you could have guns. I just feel like the way they implemented them with the real life stuff was weird. But what are Shadow's inspiration? Oh, yeah, this is actually interesting. So according to Sonic Team, they were inspired by dark films such as Underworld, Constantine, and the Terminator series. And do you see those influences within this franchise and game?
Oh yeah.
I see the Terminator for sure.
Definitely evident. And
there's no vampires,
I don't know.
though.
It's not a terrible idea because those were all very popular at the time. It's just I think what they should have done is have it completely removed from, like, having Sonic and his friends in it, and just having it be a solo story with Shadow with his own villain. I think to sprinkle in the Sonic characters was a mistake.
Especially since they added so many of them. The whole cast is in here.
So many. It's kind of wild. But then you look at Knuckles Chaotix, and Sonic was largely not in that game. He was, like, in the credits.
Right.
So, yeah, I think that was a misstep. I actually don't I don't blame them for copying Underworld, Constantine, Terminator. I think it's smart. I think it just didn't work.
I think it's interesting that Constantine is all, like, based on Catholic and, like, demonic things, and it's like this game didn't have. I understand they're going for the feeling, the vibe that franchise gave out, and I guess it did. I mean, from the inception, it felt like an edgy game. So, Shadow the Hedgehog is also the first game to feature an all-new English voice cast. Originally, this is the game that moved to 4Kids voice actors from Sonic X, and they continued until 2010's Sonic Freeriders. And I think you're fine. I think this gave us Mike Pollock as Eggman, right? This is the first game, so I would say that's the most positive thing about this whole thing. And he's the only one from the 4Kids voice cast to stay, as far as I know, right?
I think so. Yeah, I don't know the ins and outs of that, but he was, yeah.
Yeah, I think. What do you hate the 4Kids voice actors in this era of voice actors?
I didn't like them.
Okay, because I didn't either. I thought they were a little off, except for Mike. I think he obviously has been the best. I think especially when you're picking up from Sonic Adventure 2, to not have the voices of these characters in games that are essentially sequels to those events. Very
kind of
closely
jarring.
Tied.
Yeah, and I've never really felt connected to this era. For me, like my Sonic history kind of goes up to 2001, and then it was on pause until 2008, really, with Unleashed, and I guess he was in that, right? But that was when people were kind of like, oh,
it's weird because he's in these games, and you're like, oh, remember Shadow was in there? Yeah, but he just stood in the background and went, ugh. And you're like, cool, he was in the game, I guess.
Right, and I think in those later games, like Unleashed, that's when I think they had better voice directing, and I think it also paid off to not have the whole cast in that game. So I never really think of that one as of that era, but honestly, after Roger Craig Smith and the rest came in, I just think they all did a much better job. Even Mike Pollock, I think he just seems to like bounce off of Roger and the other characters a lot better. So
yeah, and I think when they do the Twitter stuff where they kind of make their own jokes, they're funny guys themselves too. So they I think they even vibe with the social media team, if you know what I mean. Like they'll say something, they'll make jokes that are in line already with what they're doing on Twitter, which is kind of funny. I don't know if they have actual writers on Twitter when they do those, but if they don't, they did a good job. If they're just ad-libbing. Sadly, the development of Shadow the Hedgehog is actually quite boring, so there's not that much stuff to talk about. But there is one little fact that we could talk about. The fact that the Japanese version actually has more cursing for gun soldiers than the American version of it. It got censored, which is funny because when we start looking at the advertising for this game, it's the most extreme in America. Like, this game is so violent. But then they went and censored the bad words because they're like, no, man, we can't have that for kids.
Right.
So,
right.
What do you even care about that they said damn and shit or wherever they said? I don't think it's a big deal. It's a kid's game. If I had a kid, I'd rather the characters not say damn.
It's not a big deal, but I think it's stupid. I think the guns and all the edginess with the swearing is extremely stupid in this game and was unnecessary. I get that you're trying to make it its own thing, but like I said, you included Sonic and Friends in this game, so you should kind of stick to those rules, even if Shadow's the star now. Like, yeah. And I think we're seeing them do it right with Sonic and Shadow Generations once that comes out, because clearly there's not going to be swearing, clearly there's not going to be guns, but it's still going to have stages from this era and storylines, and even in the Sonic 3 movie too. I think it's almost kind of like a reboot of retelling Shadow's story.
I will say I don't hate the idea of guns. I just don't like that they're realistic guns. I feel like they should have had some weird creativity with it. Like when you play Ratchet and Clank. Well, I guess we'll get into it when we get to the gameplay because it's coming. Yeah. Let's talk about the storyline. Can you read the storyline in your best Shadow the Hedgehog voice? It's not that long.
Yeah, I guess so. I don't want to do a Shadow voice.
Don't do do a Sonic voice.
Oh, I don't want to do that. I want to do my...
Do Barry's voice. I like that.
Over 50 years ago, deep in the military research facility Space Colony Ark, Professor Gerald Robotnik conducted an experiment known as Project Shadow. While trying to unlock the secrets of the Chaos Emeralds at the request of the United Federation, the experiment culminated in the ultimate life form, Shadow the Hedgehog, a hedgehog with the ability to harness the mysterious power of the Chaos Emeralds in ways not thought possible. Though he was thought dead after the events of Sonic Adventure 2, Shadow has returned with amnesia. He does not understand who he is or where he's from, but he's determined to find out. Be it from Black Doom, the leader of the alien race who claims he and Shadow made a pact involving the Chaos Emeralds, or from Dr. Eggman, who seemed to be experimenting on Shadow for an unknown purpose in Sonic Heroes. He may have to learn his secrets from the very military organization that he swore revenge against, Gun. Essentially, all parties are after the Chaos Emeralds and know something of Shadow's past, and he intends to get them first and make one of them talk.
So, like, every single Sonic story, they had to add a bunch of stuff in the end. He's like, he has to go against Gun, and there's this alien guy that they have a pact. Oh, also, he was being experimented by Dr. Robotnik. Also, you guys remember Sonic Adventure 2? Anyway, he has amnesia, so all that stuff doesn't matter.
Right.
It's like, okay, thanks, dude. And also,
right.
What do you think about the amnesia angle? Like, all games take this. I know when you play like every RPG, they're like, you don't remember who you are? Wow, welcome to the village. It's like every game does this, right? It's
right. Yeah, it's a
what do you
trope.
think about using it here?
I don't mind video game tropes in video games. I think, like, again, I think it's just, it was too stretched out. Like, if you're going to bring Shadow back in a new game, the next game should settle that, and it shouldn't be the focus. And I think the fact that Heroes teased it, and then this game kind of put it to rest, even though it did it in the most half-assed way. Like,
way half-assed.
When did this game come out? This game came out, what, 2005. So that's a long time. 2001
4 years?
4 years of
especially back then, though, because, like, okay, so what happened between the release on the Dreamcast? We had Sonic. We had 2 re-releases, Sonic Heroes.
Right.
And what else did they do? They did a couple other games, right, on the GameCube. Sonic Team. I'm trying to think. Oh, Phantasy Star Online stuff. So they had all these games in development, like almost 5-6 games in development between this and Sonic 2, Adventure 2.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I don't know. I will say, I don't mind the amnesia bit of it, but like I do hate that like they're really kind of telling you like, why did all this happen to Shadow? We're finally gonna tell you, and like you said, it's the most half-assed ending, which we'll talk about a little bit under here.
Right, and I think the problem with this game is that they needed to definitively put it to rest at the onset. I know it's like the drive of Shadow throughout the game, but they don't make it definitive, especially when it's a choose-your-own-adventure kind of game.
Right.
So I think a lot of people, even though they felt like they played a lot of this game, they might not have finished it. They probably came away with not knowing the definitive answer. So then they go into Sonic 2006. Now we're 5 years out from Sonic Adventure 2. Shadow's there again, but they don't touch on
anything.
So
you
it's
don't even
like
have to play
it never really felt truly resolved
or impactful. Like the ending of Sonic Adventure 2 had such an impact that they talked about it in future games. You know what I mean? And I don't think any other Sonic games had that impact on the franchise. That's all.
Right. So I think from a story standpoint, and especially within the Sonic franchise, this has been the longest story arc in question that was drawn out, and and it wasn't definitively or
answered well
enough so that it never felt answered.
Exactly.
There's still fans to this day who I'm sure are like, oh, it was in. If I played the boss long enough, they would say I was the real Shadow. Okay.
It kind of reminds me, and I'm not trying to like make fun of the whole franchise, but some aspects of Star Wars where they just like tuck it into lore and then they mention it, and then so when I'm watching it with someone, they're like, what are they talking about? And I'm like, it's because, and I have to explain to them, and I'm like, why do I have to know this? Why doesn't the show like have a show for this kind of stuff, like a lore episode? Because I think, yeah, I feel like some of that stuff just gets kind of brushed under, and I feel like a lot of aspects of Shadow's story are brushed under, and I do wonder if a lot of the new fans actually understand what even happened in this game. Because like you said, it's 10 different endings. You have to unlock them to get the true ending.
Right. And I mean... yeah, because there are franchises where they'll have books and comics and TV shows, and I think, by and large, I think if you're bringing up Star Wars, I think like the main 1 through 9, like I think it does a pretty good job not like tucking something vitally important away. Like the story works, but imagine if Han Solo gets put into carbonite and then we don't see him being freed from it, and he just appears in one of the movies, and everyone's like, where'd you come from? You were frozen. And he's like, it's me, guys. And then there's this question of, is it him? Is it a clone? And imagine if they never resolve it. Like, it's so batty.
Let's talk about a little bit about the baddie characters, the baddies.
Yeah.
So first we got Shadow. He's a rival protagonist. He's the lead character. He's a pretty cutie. I have nothing else to say about him. I mean, we all know who Shadow is. So let's talk about Black Doom and Doomseye.
Yeah.
Who are the two... first of all, I actually think that the character design is pretty like different from anything I've seen in the Sonic the Hedgehog game, which I give it props for.
Yeah.
It reminds me a lot of some DC comic book character, like especially Starro with the Doomsday version
For
of him.
sure. Yeah, Black Doom always looked to me like a Rayman character, if you remember Hoodlum Havoc.
Yes.
Very like, I don't know, like all those Rayman characters with like the disconnected hands, and like especially in Hoodlum Havoc, they really played up the like loose-fitting clothing and hoods, and like and that game got a lot darker. So yeah, Black Doom, he really felt like a mix of like Knights, Sonic, and Rayman, which I kind of dug. Like
I actually did too.
Don't
It was like
mind
a dark
his
version.
look.
It was like a dark version, and it's like the most. I'm just happy they didn't go with another Hedgehog,
Right.
Which was kind of a trend at this time with Sonic team. They were like, "Oh, Shadow did good. Let's just add Silver and another Hedgehog that's a villain for 06." I like these ideas. I think I was gonna say something about the look of the guy, but regardless, they never. Oh, I thought that the Wisp were connected to Doomsday for like a long time. They're like, it's gonna be revealed. It's tied into Doom, and I'm like, no way. Sonic Team doesn't care about this character.
Yeah, I think if anything, we would probably see that something come from like Ian Flynn to make those connections, and I really like when he does.
I wish they would use it more, because some of them are actually kind of brilliant, and some of his characterization's actually kind of smart, like making Silver the Hedgehog kind of a time traveling like Marty McFly.
His Silver in the IDW comics is, and even in the late his appearance in Archie, I really like him.
Yeah, me too.
And I've never liked Silver in the games, but I like how he's so nervous about the future because he's from the future. And
right, he's like, it's not good.
And he's like, he's always like a little on edge. And I feel like they've since, and not to turn this into a Silver episode, but I feel like they've since touched on what makes Silver work, because he's like Charlie Day and Marty McFly. He's like a little unhinged because he's seen too much.
Right.
And I really love that about him. My favorite cover, it's an alternate cover where I think it's the main one. It's him doing the Always Sunny like meme with like the sign,
the conspiracy one thing.
Yeah, the conspiracy one, but it's Silver, and I love it. But going back to this, let's touch on the next character. Is it Sonic? Is Sonic the next character?
Yeah, Sonic's the next character. I was going to show the image you were talking about, because I found it on the Googles.
Oh yeah.
For people that are watching it on video. So yeah, the next one's Sonic. You ever hear of this guy? So this guy's a blue dude with an attitude. So yeah, Sonic's in this game, which you said shouldn't be in here, and I agree 100%. There's no reason for Sonic to be here outside of like a flashback, but he's in here and he's his rival, etc., etc. Gun Commander. Are you surprised that Gun Commander has not been added into Smash Bros?
Or and yet he's in the game? Sonic movies.
Right. What do you think they should add him in like the next Sonic racing game? Gun Commander.
Yeah, Olive Garden, man.
I would. I think it's the most generic, obviously, but who else is going to be like leading a werewolf or something? Like, what do you expect? Like an anamorphic. Like, this is my thing with this game too. Like, this game had humans, right, and they had a mixture. So in Forces, it was all animals. So what is what is it now? Does this guy even exist in the new Sonic universe and Frontiers? Because they didn't show any humans.
I don't know.
That's what I always got. Like, are humans still alive? What's going on here? Because they go back and forth on it.
So there's something going on, because humans are around. They touch on it in those Tales Tube YouTube videos. Going back to what you said, where like sometimes Star Wars will tuck important information away in like a book or something.
They're doing that?
Yeah, Sega's been tucking away very important information in a YouTube series with like a VTuber Tales. But what's really interesting is they showed all the humans, but they showed this human we've never seen before. It's like a pink-haired girl in like an explorer's outfit or like a space outfit. And Ian Flynn has like hinted she will appear at some point. And I'm really wondering if this woman, if they're like slowly going to debut humans in the comics, you know? I guess we'll see.
What is your opinion on the whole humans? Do you think it should be a mix? Do you like the more
mix?
A mix?
Yeah,
I like the mix. It's not bad
Eggman's,
because it kind of reminds me of Well, I mean, it was always supposed to be the idea that he lives in another world with humans, right? For as long as I remember.
I mean, Robotnik's a human, obviously, but then you look back at Sonic Adventure, which was full of humans, and that game came out very early in Sonic's history, 1998. Sonic came out in 1991. So within the same decade, not even 9 years out, we had humans already in Sonic. So even though it was a little jarring to see humans in Sonic Adventure, it fast became like, yeah, of course. And I actually really like the mix. Like, I like this idea of like animals coming from the islands and humans being on the mainland. And I think it's a real shame that it's been since 2008 that we've had humans. And the comics continued it for a bit, but yeah, it's I don't know if it's Azuka holding them back or what, but I feel like they need a change of leadership at Sega or Sonic Team.
100%. I feel like there's this like a battle in Sonic Team where like there's somebody in the West says, yes, everything's canon, and Azuka's like, actually, no, it's not. No, you can't have Fang inside of a modern design. No, you can't have that either, So I don't know. It's weird. It's like, just make money. Just give fans what they want. Is that hard to do?
I don't know. We'll see.
But this guy, my last thing on Gun Commander, he looks like a Oompa Loompa in this picture a little bit, doesn't he?
I guess so.
From like the classic movies.
Don't insult Oompa Loompas.
Wait, I mean, they're not villains. They do kill kids, but I mean, Dr. Robotnik, he's an iconic character. Obviously, he's back in this game. Has there been a game where Dr. Robotnik was not even in the game or mentioned or shown?
That's a really good question. I think there...
He got his own game, Robotnik's Mean Bean Machine. Maybe Spinball? Was he in that one? Yeah, he was, right?
He definitely... I can't think of one. You know where my brain was going was that there was like this question of if Classic Eggman was ever in the early Archie comics, and he only appears once as like a shadowy robot when Sonic is like, they did a game adaptation and Sonic's like, let's jam through these levels, and they show like a level from like a Game Gear game, and it's like, it's Eggman,
right?
It's not Robotnik. But I don't think when it comes to the character outright not being in a game, I can't think, maybe the storybook games, it's technically not him,
right? Technically, but it's technically not Sonic, technically, right?
It's not anything. It's technically not a game.
Technically, we didn't want to talk about it.
Let's talk about Gerald. I want to talk about Gerald.
Robotnik, a brilliant scientist and creator and grandfather of Maria and Dr. Eggman. Says this grandfather, creator and grandfather of Maria and Dr. Eggman. It says it from the Sonic Retro description, so it can't be wrong. So he created and grandfathered Maria and Dr. Eggman.
No, he shadows. I think you're just missing a comment.
I know. I'm just joking with you.
Yeah, Gerald is a really interesting character because it's the first time we dipped into the Robotnik family line in the games.
It was kind of weird, but
it was weird. And he died. He was like,
he never came back.
So I gave a lot of flack to the game we're talking about now, Shadow. But let's be honest, like Sonic Adventure 2 started it with like Robotnik's grandfather being executed on video. It's like you go play Green Hill Zone, Sonic 1, and then go travel back in time and tell a little boy, hey, check this video out. And it's like, what are you showing me? It's an execution of an old man? You're like, yeah, that's going to happen in 2001.
Or I'm going to be like, that's why he's attacking that hedgehog. They executed his grandfather. Actually, it's funny that Robotnik doesn't even seem to care or remember about him. Like, he's just like, he never brought it up in his whole history. Like, I'm doing this because they died because of a hedgehog like you. No, he was just like, oh, he died? That's sick. Cool. Anyway, I'm going to destroy the world. Like,
right.
It's not a big character moment for actually Robotnik himself.
My big question is, will Jim Carrey play
the grandfather?
Gerald? I think he will. I think they're going to put him in age makeup. Because he's so good at playing different characters, and I think he wouldn't say no. He's always, like he's talked about returning to the role, and I think as long as he's got something fun and interesting to do, I think a fat suit and playing his grandfather in flashbacks, like 100%.
The only other comedic person I would think that could have done it for me would have been the dad from Everyone Loves Raymond, but he passed away.
Well, I think Danny DeVito would be
Danny
a good
DeVito
Gerald.
Would be good, actually. He'd
but
be
like
a good
it would be
Eggman.
like, yeah, it would be a funny nod to like classic Eggman. But I really feel like it's going to be Jim Carrey in age makeup, and
Me
it'll
too.
be kind of awesome.
The next one is Maria. She's basically what started this. For a person that like he supposedly traumatized Shadow, did she not get enough play on the story in here compared to what the ending was? Like, it's not as tied to her. She's just kind of an event that happened within the story of 2. But like, to me, it feels like she kind of never got, like, that's the most spotlight she got. Do you think she gets enough spotlight in this game?
She gets a little more spotlight because you can actually play a level with her. But
Right.
I think we're going to see her again, either in that intro animation for Sonic and Shadow Generations, or all out in the game, because they did announce a voice actress for her for the game. I'm not getting confused with Sonic 3 movies. So I think not only is this the year of Shadow, I think it's the year of Maria. Maria finally making a comeback, and it'll be the first time we have humans besides Robotnik in Sonic media content, like games, since 2008.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
And I will say also, if he ever gets into a fight with Superman and Batman, Shadow has something in common. He just has to say Maria. And
Right,
they all
but
stop.
there are, like, how long ago was 2008? I'm bad with my math.
What, for 6 years?
16?
Yeah. 16, yeah.
Yeah, so you could have been born right after Sonic
And you're in high
Unleashed,
school right now. You're 2
and
years to go to
never
college.
had a Sonic game released in your lifetime where humans were present. And then you get the Sonic and Shadow Generations coming out, and you're like, whoa, there's
And-
a little girl in this.
Also, are you surprised they never did? So there's this like pivotal Flash storyline where he goes back, changes the past to save his mom, and everything changes, and he destroys the world, and he has to try to put it back together so it could be like the old past and let his mom go. I'm surprised they didn't try to do that with Shadow, like where he's like trying to save the people, and then it's like, oh, I screwed everything up, and that's why everything...
I think that's going to be the plot to Sonic 3. I think the Sonic 3 movie is going to mix Sonic CD with Sonic Adventure 2, and I think instead of BioLizard and stuff, I think we're going to have time travel, and Robotnik's promise to Shadow is going to be you can go back and save Maria.
I think that would be interesting.
I think that would be really interesting, and I think Shadow might get that chance, and maybe he'll realize that it's not possible, or
Right.
it's just not the right thing to do.
And well, those are
Yeah.
the main characters. I was just going to say that all the supporting friend characters make an appearance, like Rouge, E23, E123, Vector, Espio, Tails, Knuckles, Amy, and of course, we can't forget the most iconic friend character, Cream the Rabbit, and maybe even Cream the Rabbit's mother, right?
Yeah, I like to cream that rabbit.
Okay, never mind. Let's move on to the
Talking about
gameplay.
vanilla, of course.
Gameplay, right? Shadow the Hedgehog was built on the engine of the previous games. It kind of feels like the era of that era, you know, the adventure where they were kind of building upon it. The twist is that the player has 3 different missions in each stage, labeled as man. My YouTube player has been crap lately. Am I the only one that has like the worst YouTube that won't play when I play something?
I think YouTube just sucks in general.
Yeah,
nowadays.
it has stuck in the last couple of weeks. But anyway, you get 3 different labeled missions. So you get a hero, neutral, or dark. Some of them only have 2 missions depending on the level. And it changes the outcome of the level because it has branching paths, quite sort of like Outrun. So we'll talk more about the branching paths, which I actually quite like about this game. So let's talk about that now, actually, when we're here. So the game does have branching paths. We have a picture here from SEGA Retro showing you the different paths you could take depending. The top is the red ones, which are evil, and the bottom they go green or blue or more good. And they all have their own different bosses.
Right.
So this is, I would say it's like Outrun mixed with Sonic CD in a way because it has an outcome to it, but Sonic CD didn't have this many Sonic CD didn't have this many paths. So what's your opinion on this level design, like the idea of branching paths from old Sega arcade games?
I really like, actually, when the Sonic franchise dips into other Sega franchises for concepts and ideas. Like, most recently, Sonic Superstars has a whole Opa Opa Fantasy Zone level. Or in Sonic Mania, we had a Puyo Puyo Mean Bean Machine level. I really like that. And in the case of this, I actually really love the concept. I think it actually... I know people have their issues with the branching path system, but I think it's without it, this would just be a very basic
Sonic
game.
Right.
Yeah, it would just be a reskinned Sonic game with guns. And even though the game's execution is not all that great with the branching paths and how you pick them, there's actually a YouTube channel I really like, The Geek Critique. So if you're like really into breaking down why this game doesn't work, that's a great video to watch, his Shadow one. But yeah, it's one of those things where it's like, I love the concept, don't like the execution,
Exactly.
but I don't want this, like, I would be sad if this game in another reality, like if Silver the Hedgehog went back in time and changed it, that it didn't have that, because that's one of my favorite things about the game, even though it's flawed. And it kind of goes back to, that thing I talk about where it's like, sometimes like, this is not a 7 out of 10 game to me, but sometimes the 7 out of 10 games are better than the 10 out of 10 games, because it's like they try interesting and unique things, and even though they kind of fail at it, it's really fun. I think that's the fun part about this game. Is the branching path. So
I agree 100%. It kind of reminds me of like a unique take on like the acts. So when you play an act, you have different levels, but it's the same assets. This, they feel like totally different assets, obviously, but the idea of the missions, so they give you 3 different ways of completing the mission. It kind of feels like the mission-based version of having 3 acts in one level, so you have to come back in a way. That kind of reminds me of that. I think it's a good idea. I think it would be interesting if Sonic / Shadows generation, if Shadows levels have missions like this and they have branching paths. And instead of having like such a diverse levels, which would take forever, they just reuse the levels but make it like different lighting. Like it's sunset now instead because you played it in a different mission. That would be interesting, just to give a little homage to this, because I do like this. It's just that the levels were really boring and you don't want to replay a game that's not good. If the game was good, this would have been epic. We'd be talking about how amazing this was and how many times we went back. Like, if Sonic Generation had this, we would be bragging about how awesome it was, because you get to play the games in different ways. So,
right. I think what's really interesting about, not to turn this into Sonic and Shadow Generations, but that's going to be the first time this game was truly revisited.
Right. 100%.
What I think is really interesting is that they're taking the Frontiers approach by having an open world Frontiers level, but for Shadow.
Right, which makes me think they're building something bigger.
Possibly, or maybe they're trying to pad it out where it's actually going to be a very short campaign, but the Frontiers stage, the white space stage, is going to make it feel bigger, which is not a bad thing. I would love to have an open world Shadow experience, and maybe that's building to whatever's next after Frontiers, where it's going to be like pick Sonic, Tails, Knuckles, Amy's Shadow, and jump in to this open world. I think that would be great, but It is interesting that we're finally going to revisit the world of Shadow the Hedgehog in 2024 through the like reimagined Sonic Frontiers engine. It's just such a weird mix, but I think it'll work. I don't know if they'll explore that branching path thing. But
I wish they did.
I could be wrong. I mean, maybe there will be different missions. Maybe that's what it is.
There was missions, sort of, in Generations where you would be able to... I mean, there weren't missions, but you would be able to unlock stuff in the shop. Maybe they could mess around with that, but I think there's some potential there. I'm actually kind of excited to play that, because I just want to see what they do. I love Sonic Generations. I played it a lot, so I'm actually really excited for that. It's not every day...
Terios is going to be in it. Terios skin.
So, it's not every day that I get excited for a Sonic game. You know that about me.
I know, yeah.
Shadow keeps his moves from the Sonic Adventure 2 with jump dash, homing attack, spin dashes, but now he has 2 chaos abilities. included chaos control and that basically warps him moving forward and slows down boss battles, and chaos blast, which is a pure energy blast that destroys everything in the way. These moves have a gauge similar to the Team Blast gauge in Sonic Heroes. So, what is your opinion on? I guess this started the whole meme, right? The chaos. I guess not, because chaos control was in Sonic Adventure 2. It's just you couldn't play as Shadow, right?
Right. Yeah. From what I remember, they're interesting, but they're like not many people remember that they're in the game, and when you do them, they actually kind of break the game. Like you run past goals that you should be, so it's almost like best not to use them, which is the worst kind of special move to have.
100%. So my question is, should Sega try to like bring these power moves back and make it part of his arsenal in the 3D game? They're going to.
Okay. Yeah. Okay, they're good. From what I've seen, Sonic and Shadow Generations is going to have not only some of these moves returning, but new ones. Like, he's going to have weird Bayonetta moves where he grows, like, Black Doom wings and becomes, like, Bat Shadow. Like, that's kind of wild.
Perfect, finally.
But that's also really leaning into the Constantine, right?
Right.
Like,
the demon stuff.
So, yeah, I don't mind that. I actually wish they leaned more into the demon stuff and special moves than just straight up pick up a gun, which I think is the next thing you're going to talk about, right?
Right. So let's talk about some of the weapons you get in this game. There's actually a chart here. You could look at them if you want when we talk about them. Obviously, the biggest changes in the Shadow the Hedgehog game is that he's packing heat, baby. He has 5 different classes of fighting. This includes melee, gun, lock-on, cannon, and vacuum, which is literally just like a Kirby gun, which is funny considering you have Glocks in the beginning. Let's look at them here in the list. So we got the guns here, like the A gun, flash gun, Gatling gun, pistol, like the semi-automatic rifle and the submachine gun look just realistic guns. And then you have like alien guns, like the flash shot, which from Black Arms. And I kind of wish they would be like, you have a starter pistol in the beginning and everything else you start like getting these crazy alien weapons, because I think it would have made the game more natural. And I feel like when I play games, and here's the melee close combat stuff, as you can see, you literally have a survival knife and everything else is just whatever. Cannons, lasers, lock-ons, which is, if you look more in the bottom, there's these special weapons, and they have some Sega references. They have the egg vacuum, that's Billy the Hatcher. Omichao gun. They have samurai blade. So they have some stuff. Shadow rifle, which is pretty cool. Outside of the guns, I felt like they just weren't implemented well enough. I feel like stuff like Ratchet and Clank did this better. They had really interesting, cool looking guns that did really wacky stuff. And this game kind of didn't do that. Like, I feel like it was like in the middle. Like, they wanted to do realistic guns, and then someone's like, but we have to have alien guns. So it's this weird mix. Right.
Like, I feel like they should have had the gun, like GUN capital guys having like more bizarre, like Star Trek-y kind of weapons. Agreed. So it didn't seem so jarring to have Shadow holding a real gun, which I don't like.
It's like a 50 Cent cover. It looks like a rap cover.
It does.
It's like, what are you, G-Unit? So not a big fan of the guns. I do wonder, you think that the pistol wielding, weapon wielding Shadow will ever be back? Like full time as a gun game? No,
never.
All right. I mean, I'm gonna lie. I hope so. But I hope that you're right. But another thing that you could ride are different playable vehicles, like a Lexus SC 430. As you can see right here, our boy is just cruising in it. Isn't that weird that you're just cruising and like Shadow? Like, look at the Lexus picture. Shadow has his hand out. He's just cruising one-handed, dude. He's not even. He doesn't even have 2 hands on the steering wheel.
It's ridiculous.
He's just. Oh my god! Tell me he's not listening to some rap song right now. Just cruising down the motorcycle.
Ridiculous.
Oh my god! It just looks ridiculous when he's in all these vehicles. That's all. What do you think about the vehicle portion of the game? I agree with you 100%. I think it's hilarious. I personally think it was so hilarious that like him and the Lexus just, it's like, oh, what happened? it's just so weird, like you said, going back to 1990s, telling myself as a kid, you know that game right there? There's going to be a Shadow character that drives a Lexus and makes rap covers with guns. It's so cool. Anyway, if you had the patience and let the game grace you by beating it 10 times and getting all the endings, you get the last story, aka the true ending. And we're gonna look at the ending cutscene a little bit. It's only I have a timestamp on it on the important part. If you haven't played this game and you don't want to know the ending, turn off the podcast, because I mean the game only came out 19 years ago, so I do know that it might be very spoily for you people that haven't experienced. But trust me, you're not missing very much. So let's look at it. Let me play it now.
Control. We need them to charge to full power.
So you play the game and you did all this, and now you're getting the perfect plan speech.
Get the professor to help me.
Yeah.
What? That's insane.
Mike delivered that insane line.
The professor was in development of the so we made a deal. I helped him, and he promised to deliver me the 7 Chaos Emeralds. That's how you were created, Shadow.
Same scene from the movie right here where he's in the tube.
Yeah.
Me? I can't believe it.
That can't be!
That can't be!
His own people for research?
I love
For
this.
Black Doom?
Big deal. We can't just stand here doing nothing.
Yeah, let's do this.
Amy being with him.
Cosmic rock ball.
Knuckles, what's wrong?
A special weapon. This gas, once released, is quickly absorbed into your bloodstream. In a moment, total paralysis will hit your nervous system. The end is near.
So that's his mom?
My dear. Remember, the humans are your enemy.
Did I
gave you
die?
life, Shadow. That's why you were created.
This is weird.
Please help me, Shadow.
What do you? It's almost over here on my side.
It's all weird.
It's an ending.
What? I gave you life, and this now.
So basically, alien technology created Shadow, and he's made with the DNA of Black Doom. Is that correct? Isn't that like the overall plot, or used?
Yeah.
So this kind of leaves questions about the whole origin of Shadow that never get resolved after this. So like, what's your opinion on this last scene? Do you think it should be canon, or do you think it should be like, oh yeah, that's something that we did a long time ago? I don't remember much about it.
Yeah, I mean, it's there. It happened, but I don't know.
Like, you think that we're going to get this resolved ever?
I don't think so.
Okay. So yeah, that's the ending, the actual ending scene. There's a lot of things wrong with it, in my opinion. I feel like they could have, I don't know, padded. I don't know. I feel like it should have been more focused on the grandfather, his and Robotnik's relationship, and that whole story that was actually interesting. Like, if you told me in Sonic Adventure 2, he's made by an alien, I'd be like, all right, cool, let's just move on. I actually don't care. I actually liked the Sonic Adventure 2 story because it fleshed out Dr. Robotnik. It gave him a tie with some Sonic character and a grandpa and Maria. And those 4 things were the most interesting part. And then you added an alien for no reason. So it's like, all right, cool, dude. That's cool, whatever. But I don't know how other people feel about it. Let's talk about some of the advertisements. We're going to see...
Yeah, let's check this out.
We're going to see how different regions advertise. So we have 2 pictures here from the UK. Mm-hmm. As you can tell, they kind of like made it more light. Like, literally the paper's white that they printed this on.
Yeah.
And it says, he's a hero, but whose hero? And the gun is an alien gun, not a realistic gun, if you notice that. And then you get to decide. So they're really playing off the fact that you get to choose your path, which is obviously a big part of the game. Cool cover. I actually like the art of Sonic on here. Shadow. It looks actually really. It looks a lot better with a cartoon gun than it does a realistic gun, in my opinion. And then the next one is actually darker, where it's Shadow with an actual gun, but a shadow of Shadow, and then there's an alien tied up to the wall, like he just got tortured. And then
I don't know what he's doing. It's like he's pressed up against the wall.
Right, like they just made out in the hallway at work, and they're like, "Shut
It kind of reminds me of in the Justice League movie when Batman's like hunting those creatures.
Yeah,
doesn't it remind you of that?
Yeah, that's
where he's like,
where he like hits him with a batarang, and they're like on the wall.
Yeah, that's what it reminds me of.
Yeah, me too. But they used a lot more white in the UK advertisements and try to like play out the gun part. Here's the American one in double page, black, red explosion, Shadow the Hedgehog with a sniper rifle. That's the.
I don't mind that gun though. It looks cartoony.
Cartoony enough.
I think that one's fine. It's the handguns that really
the semi-automatic one.
Unsettling to me. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. The screenshots are small on the bottom. It's a whatever ad. And then there's Shadow. Whatever. It's just average ad. So those are the print ads we got, but we also got a couple of YouTube ads. So let's look at the first one we got here. This is the US. Is this the US one? Yeah. I think so. Yeah. Let me play it. All right, I'll play it now.
Discovering the secret of my past will be nearly impossible.
Talking to us, the audience.
I'll take
Hello.
those odds.
What a badass! Dude, the explosion didn't even look bad.
Shadow the Hedgehog. His mysterious
Took his guns.
past holds the key to the world's future. Is he a hero or a villain? You decide. Either way, you'll have a blast.
Interesting.
So a lot of the promotional says that his past will dictate the future, but like, did it really though? Because if you play this game, these aliens really never do come back, do they?
No.
So it's like, you just skip this one. It should have just been like, this story means nothing. Skip it. And that would have been a better. So, and this is how they advertised it in Japan. I'm not sure. We're kind of running low, so I'm not going to play the longer ad version of this, but it's pretty funny.
Yeah.
It's 30 seconds. I'll play it now. Tell me what you think of this one. Like, what is this? Why?
Shadow the Hedgehog.
He's awesome.
I like this.
Yeah, they should advertise it like this in America.
Well, I'll let the ad play out and I'll have my say.
It's like part of a music video, right?
So, I actually still do. I really liked M-Flow.
Right, because they're the
was
ones in the video.
Yeah, when I was a kid, I really liked them. I actually listened to them before this even came. Like, I think 2001, 2002, I was listening to them. Man, I'm trying to remember some of the tracks, but yeah, there's. I think there's one called like Chronos Psychology or something like that. But I was listening to them like a few weeks ago, actually.
Well, was this song in it?
No, but M-Flow is good. Look them up. I love their stuff.
They also have a music video with it, which is here, but let's not watch it because I don't want to get copyright
No.
claimed either on it.
Yeah.
There's a Shadow dance video that is crossed to promote this game. What do you think about using a dance? Like in Japan, he's like dancing and having a great time, and it's like pop music, electric music. In America, is like, I gotta save the future, and there's explosions and stuff, and it's like, what? Like, there's this like characterization of Shadow that's different everywhere.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, it makes sense. It's always going to be different in different regions.
where do you prefer, the grimy one or the dance? Yeah, I'm more about the dance too. So
do the Shadow dance. I'm all about that.
Legacy and future. So while Shadow the Hedgehog was the most popular character in the Sonic verse after Sonic Adventure 2, the hate towards his solo series had people like Thomas East of the official Nintendo magazine saying that the character's reputation was tarnished. Most complaints. Well, do you think it was after? Because I think it was. You don't think so?
I mean, it was, but
I think it's recovered I think in the last 10 years, where the generation that were kids when this game came out and Sonic Adventure 2 on GameCube came out, Now they're in the mid-20s. They're the ones that are the people being aimed at for Sonic Generation Shadow.
Go to the Sonic Symphony, and the most singing is for the Shadow the Hedgehog 100%. Music.
Oh, dude, remember when we went to the 25th anniversary event? I was surprised at how many people were so hyped for some of the tracks where I was like, I didn't know people cared about Sonic 06 that much.
Right. It almost made me...
Question?
Well, no, because they're returning to Chicago. It made me reconsider maybe not going a second time.
Because everyone was singing?
I loved the first half. I just thought the rock part was just not really my thing. Like, a few of the songs really, I was like, this is awesome to hear in person, but the Shadow stuff was really hard. I'm sorry. Especially the people singing with it. Like, it was like, on The Simpsons when Otto's, like, at a concert, and he's like, sit down! You're ruining it for the rest of us.
Yeah, I mean, that's something that's going to end up happening. I'm surprised that it was so popular, the Symphony event, but I guess not, because Sonic music is... Even if the game's bad, the Sonic music's usually pretty good. At least, exactly. Even if it's not for you, obviously people singing the Shadow the Hedgehog soundtrack, it's for someone. Reputation tarnish, according to a lot of people back in the day. Most complaints came from the lack of personality in Shadow and its weird edge that Sonic Team really wanted to lean on during the mid-2000s. What do you think about the edge? Do you think that they kind of kept any of that edge? Because I felt like Sonic as a brand, like, they don't know what they want. It's like a bipolar franchise. Like, you'll have Sonic Heroes, and then all of a sudden you have Shadow and Sonic 06, and then you have a Pixar game like Unleashed, and then you're back to, like, now we have Frontiers, which is an open world Dragon Ball Z game where you, like, body slam robots that are 15 times your size. So I'm like, what vibe are they? So they keep on changing it. Is the Edge your least favorite Sonic era?
This is my least favorite era. From Heroes, I mean, even though Heroes is not an edgy game, it kind of started the whole story. But yeah, from 2003 to 2006, just not a fan of that era. And I even think it's kind of sloppy from 2007 leading into 2008. I think Unleashed, even though I don't love that game, I think it started an era that we're kind of still in.
So
weirdly,
we're kind of evolving into like an open world version of it, but for sure it's still there.
Just in terms of like what Sonic looked like and how the characters kind of acted, One
aspect that people liked were the branching paths, but obviously they said it wasn't good enough to replay over and over again because of the bad level design. So what does the future hold for our Shadow character? So he received his very own DLC in Sonic Forces, and has recently announced to be a bigger part of Sonic Generations with Sonic X Shadow Generations. So much so, that 2020. So much so that Sega's calling 2024 the year of our Lord Shadow. But let's look at some of the gameplay, a little bit of the gameplay of Sonic of Shadow and Sonic Generations. I have it timestamped here. It has. We'll watch a couple minutes of it. First of all, the graphics are fucking amazing in this. It looks really, really crisp and clear.
Yeah.
Especially compared to the PS2 footage we were looking at for the other one. I still have some of the complaints I have about it. It's like I always felt like this era of Shadow and like this era had the worst character designs by Sonic Team. Like, it was just robots, generic gun, cool space level, but it's like always they look the same as Sonic Adventure 2. Like, there wasn't no artistic liberties, in my opinion. I know there's some people that love these Guns robots and they wish that we could always go back to Gun, but I'm not a big fan of Gun. But this looks nice. The way you can see the draw distance, it's a lot better than the Sonic Frontiers. So yeah, I'm actually really impressed with this game and I'm looking forward to it. That's it. I don't really have anything more to say about this footage. You?
I think it looks great. It almost looks pre-rendered.
Right.
Like, it looks so good.
Like, so sharp and smooth.
Yeah. Even better than Sonic Frontiers.
Oh, yeah.
Which just shows you how quickly Sonic is progressing as a franchise in terms of, like,
the team,
modern visuals. And I didn't know if Sonic had a place in, like, modern gaming. but looking at this, like it looks like an animated show, even though it's not pre-rendered. It's just wild. It looks really amazing. So it makes me excited for what the future holds for the franchise, especially once we move into games no longer having like PS4. This will be on PS4, but it won't be physical. What do you think about that?
That's BS, dude. I'm
in the US.
I'm literally upset with Sega's bullshit stance on like physical, and it's BS because they're going to release it later on. They're going to wait until DLC or something, and then they're going to release a whatever physical version. And I think it's going to happen. But then again, they never did Yakuza Gaiden or whatever. So
yeah, it's interesting. Like I think Japan will have it physical, but not America. There will be no PS4 physical release, which sucks because I've been picking up all the Sonic games on PS4 over the years.
I usually think that these companies want you to like buy digitally, play it for a long time, and then double dip later when they eventually release it. Because they did this with Alien.
Right.
Alan Wake 2 just recently got after a year, only digital, finally got a physical announcement, and people were all cheering. And I'm like, cool, now I get to buy it for $60 after a year. So I feel like it's them trying to milk, slowly drip the content for hardcore gamers, but we'll see. Personally, I think they could have literally had a special edition with Shadow, with a statue like they did in Japan or something, and it would have sold just fine, in my opinion. But if the movie released this winter with this, it would have been game over. It would have been the real year of Shadow. It just sucks that the movie is not making it. So talking about the movie, hopefully we don't get copyrighted for this, but I have the ending, the little cameo, so you give me
maybe mute it.
I'll mute it.
Yeah.
I have it timestamped, so I'm just gonna press play. So we have the original look, I guess. This is literally the same way. The tube, the Vegeta tube or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
I don't even know what this is. What is this? A hyperbolic time chamber?
Yeah.
He's in it. The design has two eyes just like Sonic. If anything, he kind of looks more like... he does look more like Sonic here than he does in the... Like, if I saw him in the dark room, I'd be like, oh, that is Sonic in a way.
Yeah, interestingly, I think that's actually a modified Sonic model. Right. So we're going to see the true Shadow in Sonic 3. I don't know if they've officially said who's voicing Shadow, because even though there were those news stories saying like it's gonna be Keanu Reeves, that was never an official release announcement. No. That was just like, and I have to wonder if that was a part of them trying to get him to agree. Like maybe they were like, let's leak that it's him so that he agrees.
Do you have it on IMDb or anything? IMDb.
I don't know. Like even actors. I think Idris Elba was like, it's going to be... They were like, someone brought that up and he goes, oh, is it? I mean...
yeah, they do have the girl from Maria on here. It's like some young girl that was in... I had never heard of any of these shows. But they have her too, so they are going to play her as a young girl. Like
everyone was newsing that it will be Keanu Reeves, but I don't think they've ever officially...
He's not in the cast, so... Oh yeah, he is right here.
They've never...
They have him on at least IMDb, so I don't know how the true it is.
Right. It's interesting that it hasn't been officially announced yet.
What do you think? You think Keanu Reeves would be playing a good Shadow?
I mean, he's older, and Shadow's older, so it makes sense.
He's 17 and a half. I'm joking. I don't know how old he's 1,000 years old.
Well, he's 50.
At least 50, right? No, I'm saying Shadow.
Yeah.
How long has he been frozen? 60,
50, because in the Knuckles TV series they talk about how they talk about how aliens appeared in like 1974, right, which tracks with, or they mention a year. They drop a year a few times. So Keanu Reeves is 59, so yeah, makes sense. You think, but we don't know yet. We'll see.
I think they should play up the whole like Sonic and Shadow have both been kind of isolated in a way, because like he was isolated and like he's a time traveler technically because he was frozen, and when he was alive he was just an experiment in this like ship with this girl and never really had a life outside of that, and then Sonic was basically tied to his basement and hiding for a long time. There's some connections there of them as character, but I don't know. It's going to be interesting. I'm excited to see Sonic the Hedgehog 3. Shadow the Hedgehog, not a very good game, but I think it Shadow is a pretty decent character that has a lot of potential to grow in the future. So my closing thoughts are, it's not worth playing Shadow the Hedgehog. Watch the cutscenes online. Play Sonic Adventure 2. Then watch the cutscenes of what happens here. Then play Sonic and Shadow Generations. Sonic Shadow Generations when it comes out. That's my preferred method. What are your thoughts? Do you think people should stomach through Shadow the Hedgehog, or...
I think if you own an original Xbox or Xbox 360 and you're able to get a copy of this game, check it out. I mean, it's also on GameCube and PS2. But it's more of a curiosity now. I feel like, at least in terms of like what Sega sees as like hard canon now, they're kind of ignoring this game, or at least hoping you will just experience it in Shadow Generations, and that's fine. But yeah, I like Shadow as a character. I didn't really like I said, it was like 5 years of guessing, how he returned, and I think that's stupid. But
I think they should have made a bigger deal of how he returned, and like, I don't know, made some big event. Like, it should have been a plot point into like a future Sonic game where, like, instead of the Phantom Ruby, it was like bringing back Shadow. Like, there was an actual mission that brought him back that was like impactful, not like, oh yeah, anyway, he's back because he needs to be in his own gang because he need to make money. And here's the story. He's an alien, by the way. Anyway, what do you guys think about Unleashed? But yeah, that's my thoughts. I think there's a lot of potential for the character. I hope the movie kind of has a resurgence for the character, and I actually wouldn't mind him having his own game again. I think they should literally just forget the events of the first one. I mean, or at least answer them, and I don't know if they could, though. That's the problem. Like, I feel like anything they do with alien stuff is going to make people yawn. So, I don't know. I'm excited for Shadow Generations video game. That's all I know. Hopefully he's playable in the next Frontiers game, but besides that, I don't know if I could see him getting his own game anymore, or any of the side.
Would be nice.
I don't see any of the side characters sadly getting their own game anymore. Do you? Like, do you see Amy?
No,
Tails,
I don't.
Knuckles?
I don't see that happening.
Yeah.
Yeah, but we have quite a few Patreon memories, so let me read through those. We'll be here for a little bit more. So Soniku says, I have a funny and embarrassing memory for me in regards to this game and its announcement. After the announcement of Shadow with a gun in the trailer making it look like he killed Sonic with said gun, I was quite distressed as a young lad.
Of course.
For whatever reason, I was so distressed that I happened to write a letter into Sega's customer support because I had no idea how on earth I could confirm whether this was an out-of-season April Fool's joke or not. I begged them to say it wasn't so, and surprisingly, someone actually took the time to write back to me, apologize that this was unfortunately happening, and whoever that person was, they seemed just as upset about the possibility of this game going in that hardcore direction.
Unfortunately.
Good person working
Unfortunately.
there. That said, the game finally came out. I genuinely enjoyed the game a lot. I never was into guns, but at least they were fairly optional. And looking back on almost 20 years of this game existing, I can safely say that the memeability of taking candy from a baby, which apparently is fine by Shadow, that damn fourth Chaos Emerald, and countless comically evil laughs, the game has genuinely provided me more joy in my life than most things that exist, and I'm grateful we have it. Even if I never want to see Shadow hold a gun or act like this much of an edgelord again. Also, Barry, you sound extra handsome today, and make sure to tell George he looks pretty good too, at least as far as a person stuck in the internet matrix goes. Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Ben Hayward says, "Ow the edge." Daniel Andre says, "Oh my god, not this game. This is easily my least favorite 3D Sonic game in the entirety of the mainline series. I actually played it to completion, and not even the final boss could save it for me. Jesus Christ. I love Shadow very much. I couldn't be more happier for him right now with all the love and attention he's getting. And not only that, but I love all the new concepts and ideas brought into this game. Shadow the Hedgehog, but nonetheless, the execution is very messy and confusing. There are a lot of the stages, gameplay mechanics, and level design. I'm sorry, but I enjoy Sonic 06 a lot more than this game, especially now. George, Barry, this episode of Sega Talk may help me appreciate Shadow the game more. I don't think it will. But even so, at this moment of me writing this, I believe Shadow is a better game for 2005. It isn't a very focused product or piece of art, If we had more of a streamlined story with Sonic and Rouge both helping Shadow rediscovering who he was through a journey with himself,
I agree.
That's something that I believe could have been a lot better, while still including the Black Arms, Omega, Eggman, of course, the Gun Commander himself, Commander Tower. Oh, is that his name? Sorry, Shadow the Hedgehog. You were a huge pain in the ass for me to play through. Again, not even the final Doom boss fight was worth it. You may have your fans, but I am certainly not one of them. Sorry. Zachary Ross says, Sonic, unlike myself, is an optimist, so I guess I jive a bit more the dark and moody nature of Shadow. My first experience with this fella was in Sonic Adventure 2 for the Dreamcast. At first, I didn't know how Shadow would fit into the Sonic universe within the game, or what he would bring to the story and player. He came at a time where Sega was changing and trying to survive as a company. To me, after the conclusion of SA2, his character escaped me, but it was not forgotten. He became a character that I wondered if they would make a return, because I admittedly liked who they were and connected to their story. The edge that Sonic brought to games in the 90s waned a bit as the 2000s came. Shadow brought that back with an edge and unruliness again. I will say that I wish Shadow got to explore environments in this game that were not always destitute, on fire, or always taking place at night. Shadow is cool. He has the lone leather jacket in your closet next to the tweed and corduroy ones. Michael S. says, this was a fun game to me. Simple, dumb fun. I know it got bad reviews and probably isn't thought of well now.
And I mean, it's true. It's not a great game, but like everyone said, it's a great character that just didn't get what he deserved. And sadly, that's all for this majestic, lugubrious Saturnine episode of Sega Talk. Bye.
Bye.
Hey, we made it.
An animated show, even though it's not pre-rendered. It's just wild. It looks really amazing. So it makes me excited for what the future holds for the franchise, especially once we move into games no longer having like PS4. This will be on PS4, but it won't be physical. What do you think about that? In the US, Yeah, it's interesting. Like I think Japan will have it physical, but not America. There will be no PS4 physical release, which sucks because I've been picking up all the Sonic games on PS4 over the years, and right. Right. Maybe mute it. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, interestingly, I think that's actually a modified Sonic model. So we're going to see the true Shadow in Sonic 3. I don't know if they've officially said who's voicing Shadow, because even though there were those news stories saying, like, it's going to be Keanu Reeves, that was never an official release announcement. That was just like... And I have to wonder if that was a part of them trying to get him to agree. Like, maybe they were like, let's leak that it's him so that he agrees. I don't know. Like, even actors, I think Idris Elba was like, it's going to be... They were like, someone brought that up and he goes, oh, is it? I mean, if... Everyone was newsing that it will be Keanu Reeves, but I don't think they've ever officially... They've never... Right. It's interesting that it hasn't been officially announced yet. I mean, he's older and Shadow's older, so it makes sense. Like, well, he's 50. Yeah. 50, because in the Knuckles TV series, they talk about how they talk about how aliens appeared in like 1974, right? Which tracks with, or they mention a year. They drop a year a few times. So Keanu Reeves is 59. So, yeah, makes sense. But we don't know yet. We'll see. Mm-hmm. Right. Yeah. Mm-hmm. I think if you own an original Xbox or Xbox 360 and you're able to get a copy of this game, check it out. I mean, it's also on GameCube and PS2. But it's more of a curiosity now. I feel like at least in terms of like what Sega sees as like hard canon now. They're kind of ignoring this game, or at least hoping you will just experience it in Shadow Generations, and that's fine. But yeah, I like Shadow as a character. I didn't really like I said, it was like 5 years of guessing, you know, how he returned, and I think that's stupid. But yeah. Yeah. Would be nice. No, I don't. I don't see that happening. Yeah, but we have quite a few Patreon memories, so let me read through those. We'll be here for a little bit more. So Soniku says, I have a funny and embarrassing memory for me in regards to this game and its announcement. After the announcement of Shadow with a gun and the trailer making it look like he killed Sonic with said gun, I was quite distressed as a young lad. For whatever reason, I was so distressed that I happened to write a letter into Sega's customer support because I had no idea how on earth I could confirm whether this was an out-of-season April Fool's joke or not. I begged them to say it wasn't so, and surprisingly, someone actually took the time to write back to me, apologized that this was unfortunately happening, and whoever that person was, they seemed just as upset about the possibility of this game going in that hardcore direction. Good person working there. That said, the game finally came out. I genuinely enjoyed the game a lot. I never was into guns, but at least they were fairly optional. And looking back on almost 20 years of this game existing, I can safely say that the memeability of taking candy from a baby, which apparently is fine by Shadow, that damn fourth Chaos Emerald, and countless comically evil laughs, the game has genuinely provided me more joy in my life than most things that exist, and I'm grateful we have it. Even if I never want to see Shadow hold a gun or act like this much of an edgelord again. Also, Barry, you sound extra handsome today, and make sure to tell George he looks pretty good too, at least as far as a person stuck in the internet matrix goes. Thank you. Ben Hayward says, "Ow the edge." Daniel Andres says, "Oh my god, not this game. This is easily my least favorite 3D Sonic game in the entirety of the mainline series. I actually played it to completion, and not even the final boss could save it for me. Jesus Christ. I love Shadow very much. I couldn't be more happier for him right now with all the love and attention he's getting. And not only that, but I love all the new concepts and ideas brought into this game. Shadow the Hedgehog. But nonetheless, the execution is very messy and confusing. There are a lot of the stages, gameplay mechanics, and level design. I'm sorry, but I enjoy Sonic 06 a lot more than this game, especially now. George, Barry, this episode of Sega Talk may help me appreciate Shadow the game more. I don't think it will. But even so, at this moment of me writing this, I believe Shadow deserved better game for 2005. It isn't a very focused product or piece of art. If we had more of a streamlined story with Sonic and Rouge both helping Shadow rediscovering who he was through a journey with himself, that's something that I believe could have been a lot better, while still including the Black Arms, Omega, Eggman, of course, the Gun Commander himself, Commander Tower. Oh, is that his name? Sorry, Shadow the Hedgehog. You were a huge pain in the ass for me to play through. Again, not even the final Doom boss fight was worth it. You may have your fans, but I am certainly not one of them. Sorry. Zachary Ross says, Sonic, unlike myself, is an optimist, so I guess I jive a bit more the dark and moody nature of Shadow. My first experience with this fella was in Sonic Adventure 2 for the Dreamcast. At first, I didn't know how Shadow would fit into the Sonic universe within the game, or what he would bring to the story and player. He came at a time where Sega was changing and trying to survive as a company. To me, after the conclusion of SA2, his character escaped me, but it was not forgotten. He became a character that I wondered if they would make a return, because I admittedly liked who they were and connected to their story. The edge that Sonic brought to games in the 90s waned a bit as the 2000s came. Shadow brought that back with an edge and unruliness again. I will say that I wish Shadow got to explore environments in this game that were not always destitute, on fire, or always taking place at night. Shadow is cool. He has the lone leather jacket in your closet next to the tweed and corduroy ones. Michael S. says, this was a fun game to me. Simple, dumb fun. I know it got bad reviews and probably isn't thought of well now. It's true. Bye. Oof, that was a rough one.